Good morning. 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 Hello, I'm meteorologist Tom Schmidt with Ozarks First in Springfield, Missouri. And we are going to take a look now at some of the NOAA layoffs. They've been through kind of a firing and rehiring series recently. And so let's take a look first at the firings. Okay. So we had over about 1,000 employees that worked for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Okay. That's the agency that runs the National Weather Service. All right, so we had 2 rounds of layoffs that took place in the spring. One, I think, in February, and then one again either the first or second week of March. Cutting back just across the board, roughly 20% of staffing from NOAA itself. And so that did leave behind some gaps. We went through storm season, and it's been a very busy storm season so far from spring and in March, April, and May, all coming with a huge amount of tornadoes, over 1,000 tornadoes so far across the country, which is about 250 more than normal year to date. So it's been a busy spring storm season for sure. And that also left some gaps in the weather balloons, right? So here's a map of weather balloons that have been impacted, the sites that have been impacted by balloon launches not happening or being reduced in the amount of times they happen. So normally you'll get a weather balloon launch twice a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. And so with the staffing cuts, the offices that I've circled in yellow on this map have had to either reduce the number of times a day they launch a balloon, or they've altogether just had to scrap launching balloons at all. And so some of the ones that were impacted were up in Medford, Oregon, Rapid City, South Dakota, Omaha, Nebraska, Tucson, Arizona, Lamont, Oklahoma, that's north of Oklahoma City, near the state line of Oklahoma and Kansas, Amarillo, Texas, Lake Charles, Louisiana, and Miami, Florida. Those are the offices that they still give balloon launches. It's just not at the twice-a-day scale that it usually is, okay? Offices that have really just kind of scrapped balloon launches, at least I say scrapped, I went back in the last 48 hours, haven't had a balloon launch since then. Maybe there's some technical problems I'm not aware of, but anyway, they're not doing them in the last 2 days. Portland, Maine, Spokane, Washington, Tallahassee, Florida, that one I know has been scrapped entirely because of staffing. Boston, Massachusetts, and Denver, Colorado. Denver was kind of a surprise, but they haven't had a balloon launch in a while. So staffing impacts there, leading to difficulties in some of these offices in trying to get the offices' balloons launched on the twice-a-day schedule. Okay, we've also had impacts in staffing timing. These offices for the Weather Service used to be pretty standard. They would be operable for 24 hours. And in some cases now, some offices, like one in Lexington, Kentucky, has had to go back on that. They're not able to have staffing to have someone on hand 24 hours a day in that office. And so that has led to them trying to swap hours out, and it makes some difficult times when you have severe thunderstorms coming in. Some long days and stressful hours for the folks that are still left behind in these offices. Now, here in Springfield, we had some impacts. I believe we did have some openings that were then closed from the staffing cuts, and so we're still looking at short staffing here in Springfield. And then Little Rock office in Arkansas, they had some cuts. They had about, I heard about half a dozen people from a trusted source, and so were cut back in February and March doing the staffing cuts in general. And the Little Rock, Arkansas office is the branch of the Weather Service that serves our counties that we cover across northern Arkansas. It's also led to some data gaps and just makes things a little more difficult to find as a meteorologist. Something I use quite often, especially when we have heavy rainfall events like we are now, is I'll go back and look at flood fatality statistics. Okay, and it's a database that contains pretty cut and clear data on flood-related deaths from years past. I believe this data went back to about 2010 in this data set, 2009, 2010, somewhere in there, and then so forth up to current flood statistics. And so it was really helpful. You know, it made it very clear to be able to show people the data of how many people were killed in cars from flooding versus the overall flood-related deaths. And it turned out to be about half of all fatalities caused by flooding involved vehicles. and that was 2024, and they keep this up to date, and it's a little bit more tricky to find now. So you used to be able to just go to this website, which was operated by the La Crosse, Wisconsin National Weather Service office, and now they're saying, well, you can't find this data here anymore because it was their staff that had to keep up this information and stay on top of this weather page. Now they're just referencing you, hey, go check out this link here, and so we'll go ahead and open up this link. And it brings you to this website, which is where the data comes from. It's just a little convoluted. I can't seem to really figure it out just quite yet. Still kind of a work in progress of having to figure out, okay, what do I need to input? What do I need to search for to get the data I'm looking for? And it's very tricky. It's just a vast amount of information all put into one website, which is great. Might sound good, but it's a lot to have to work through. And yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of data to sift through and a lot of data to figure out, and exactly wording it correctly and getting familiar with this format takes some time. So that's kind of one problem we've been facing with trying to find data that used to be readily available, right, from folks at the Weather Service across a local branch in Wisconsin. All right, so why are we talking about this again? Well, we had layoffs, right? And we had a busy spring storm season. Again, Missouri right now is sitting at 105 tornadoes. Arkansas is sitting about mid-50s. And Texas has now breached around 110 tornadoes this year. It's been busy, okay? Texas, I think Missouri, and Illinois, those three states have all recorded over 100 tornadoes this year for 2025 so far. It's been very busy. It's been an above normal year in terms of how many tornadoes we've seen year to date at this point. And that holds true also for wind and hail events too. And now, of course, we're dealing with a whole lot of flooding. And when you have an active weather pattern like what we've seen recently, this can put stress on your weather service offices, as it does us here too. We're working hard to stay on top of the ball and try to keep track of what's coming down the pipe for us. But when you have fewer people to work, it just makes things a little bit more difficult, right? And the layoffs from the spring kind of gave NOAA an opportunity, okay, and I use the word opportunity, to see where these staffing cuts have had the highest impact on what they're able to produce. So whether it's stress from staffing the offices, whether it's certain technology and certain information and databases no longer being as up to date as they used to be, or as vast and broad as they used to be either, or it could be certain techniques returning to storm warnings or tornado warnings, timing of that, getting information out in a timely manner. Maybe those times have been impacted some. So now they've had the opportunity after the busy storm season to go back and look at those gaps and determine, okay, if we could hire people back, where should we put them back first? And that's what they've done. So the Department of Government Efficiency has kind of lifted the hiring freeze temporarily in certain areas within NOAA. And so they're going to allow NOAA, the agency, to rehire about 100. It's over 100 staff members. The number I've seen thrown around is 126. That's an estimated value. All right, but over 100 Weather Service staffers will be rehired for certain positions across NOAA. And this comes on the heels of, again, a very busy, severe storm season. And, of course, we're going into what's forecasted to be an above normal hurricane season. Hurricane season officially began on Sunday, June 1st. And so the positions that they hire back will be what they call mission critical jobs. And so these are jobs where, again, I'll say it, where NOAA's had the opportunity to see where they've had the most loss of impact on these certain jobs. And now they're going to be opening and rehiring for these jobs that they've determined to be the most important for them to fill and be able to fulfill their duties of getting weather information out timely, and, of course, during severe weather, getting out watches and warnings to be able to prompt people to action be able to tell people, hey, heads up, there's significant weather like a tornado, like a severe storm with 80-mile-an-hour winds and golf ball-sized hail coming your way. They're the ones that produce all those warnings. And so they've been able to identify these mission-critical roles to help them better fulfill their job responsibility as the National Weather Service, as the National Hurricane Center as well, going into hurricane season. So we'll see how that pans out. It's promising. There's a lot of opinions floating around about, oh, they never should have cut the jobs in the first place, or, oh, no, they should have done it this way, or no, they're doing it the right way. I've heard so many things from people and opinions, and I don't want to get into the opinions, but it's at least promising. I'll say that. A lot of people are finding hope and promising forethought that the Weather Service is now able to rehire some of the positions they lost, and they're able to identify the positions that are going to help them most. All right, so that they're doing it what I would call the most efficient way based on the events that have taken place. Okay, I'll just put it that way. But anyway, there's more on an article. If you want to find some background, I added some links to our web story on ozarksfirst.com. Go check it out. You can take a look at the history of the NOAA layoffs and also some expectations and estimates of what's to come and why these hirings have been allowed. There's also some good information there from our partners at Nexstar for the Hill, reporting there for Nexstar, our parent company. They've done some good insights on the staff cuts at NOAA and these recent rehirings of these opening positions. So go check it out if you want to know more. But that's all I got. That's kind of my 2 cents as a meteorologist working in Springfield, Missouri, and after seeing a very busy springtime season and hearing from our Weather Service folks here in Springfield. They were stressed. They were able to work around it the best they can. They did a phenomenal job this spring season dealing with the wild, severe weather we've seen across the Ozarks. And they're probably relieved to see that some of the stress may be taken off their shoulders a little bit. Not just this office, but offices all around the country. More so for those that have been heavily impacted by those staff cuts. All right, well, I'm meteorologist Tom Schmidt for Ozarks First, reporting in Springfield, Missouri from our Ozarks First digital desk. It's a Wednesday. We've got rain. It looks like rain will be likely through the rest of the work week. Hope you can find some time to work around it. Otherwise, another gloomy week ahead for us here in the Ozarks. Happy Wednesday.